is kind of hard. There's just so many factors. Father God, just help. I'll tell you a story about a girl I once knew who grew up in Jersey, but to Cali she flew. We lost touch for a moment, or maybe a year. Always carried a memory between both my ears. She was bright, funny, always wanted the best, put a smile in my history. And I said before she left, there'll be time to catch up with you. Maybe over coffee or a quick bite to eat when you're 22. So I'll take a little moment to say I really, really miss you. And I'll be really honest, you were never one I thought we'd lose. So I'll take a little moment to say I really, really miss you. And now we really can't undo the time we coulda, shoulda used. So I'll tell Mom and Dad I love them, 'cause forever's not far if tomorrow's not coming. You would ask for advice on who you should date. I said Ricky might be immature for his age. I remember how hard it was for you to grow up. Everyone had opinions on how you should look. They said cut off your bangs or wear shorter skirts. But through seasons of change, you never forgot your worth. A heart of a woman in faith like a child. I bet heaven is loving you. I bet you make Jesus smile. So I'll take a little moment to say I really, really miss you. And I'll be really honest, you were never one I thought we'd lose. So I'll take another moment to say I really, really miss you. And now we really can't undo the time we coulda, shoulda used. So I'll tell Mom and Dad I love them, 'cause forever's not far if tomorrow's not coming. Christine, your life was worth living. So I'll take a little moment to say I really, really miss you. And I'll be really so I'll tell Mom and Dad life is worth living. Yes, this life is worth living. Okay.
Welcome to today's show, everyone. This is Ed from the Ed Boston Podcast Network, and that was a song for Christina Grimmie, done by Tyler Ward. Tyler had this to say on the YouTube that was taken from. Christina was an amazing human being. I was blessed to know her. Our friendship felt more like family. We not only worked together, we shared the same faith. She was a powerful force in the entertainment world, a necessary one. The entire Grimmy family brought truth to this crazy world. She was so much more than an entertainer. She was a conduit of light that went far beyond what we could see. I was in awe of her spirit, her talent, and her love for people. Christina, you'll be missed. Thank you for lighting up this world. The last few days have been very difficult to process. Sometimes the only way I know how to deal with events like this is to write music. I'm sad, angry, upset, and strangely peaceful all at the same time. I think this will take the remainder of 2016 to let this sad reality sink in. My heart breaks for Bud, Tina, and Mark. May God bless the Grimmy family. And we wanted to start off the show with that. We talked extensively on Tuesday about the life and the death of Christina Grimmy, and come up with this song since that time. And you can go to trevordecker.com and find that. They're trying to see that it goes viral, and you can click on the YouTube and go and help do that. Welcome to the show again, folks. Thursday edition of the Ed Boston Podcast and the Ed Boston Podcast Network. Got a few things, maybe not as many as we would normally have, but of course Tuesday we only had two things, so it doesn't, the number of things we have doesn't necessarily mean how long things will take. We spent almost an hour and 45 minutes on those two subjects on Tuesday, and who knows how long we'll go today. We'll go till, I guess, I get done talking or I run out of topics to talk about. Got several things to talk about with tragedies that have gone on in the... Boy, Orlando, Florida is just really getting beat to death. Christy Grimmy was in Orlando when she was murdered. Of course, the horrible massacre at the nightclub was in Orlando. And then this little 2-year-old that was killed by an alligator was right on the grounds of at Disney. And sorry for the interruption there. Reminds me I should turn the ringer off on my phone, Edward. Not on the grounds of Disney World itself, but of one of their resorts. And it's all... I heard him describe that the entire Disney area, complexes, and everything there was the size of a county. And so I wanted to look at this story, this horrible sadness that goes with this story. The Graves family left an upscale Omaha neighborhood for a relaxing vacation at a Disney resort in Orlando when tragedy struck. Lane Graves, the youngest member of the family, was playing at the edge of a lagoon Tuesday night when an alligator dragged him under the water. Graves' dad, Matt, tried to fight the beast to no avail. The 2-year-old's body was recovered Wednesday afternoon after a frantic, all-out search by authorities failed to find the boy in time. They are very shaken up, extremely shaken up, Orange County Sheriff's Office spokesman Jeff Williamson told reporters. Imagine if it were you. What would you be? Matt Graves is a chief data officer for Info Group, a marketing company based in Nebraska. Info Group's chairman said he was stunned and heartbroken about the family's unspeakable loss. He added, Matt's family is the light of his life, and his family's anguish is our own. Matt Graves also has served on the board of the Greater Omaha Chamber of Commerce since 2013. We stand ready to assist him, his wife, and family as they grieve the loss of Lane, the Chamber's president and CEO, David Brown, said in a statement. Matt, his wife Melissa, their 4-year-old daughter Ella, and Lane were members of St. Patrick's Parish, where Ella attends school. The parish asked for prayers for the family. Governor Pete Ricketts said in a statement that no family should ever have to experience such horror. While family members haven't spoken publicly, they released a message through the Orange County Sheriff Jerry Demings. We do appreciate all the prayers that have gone toward to allow us to do our jobs to recover their son so that they can move forward at this time with a proper burial, Demings said. Grief counselors and victim advocates were with the family throughout Tuesday night and Wednesday morning. It's a horrible and a sad situation, and it could have been just about anyone. Of course, people that live in Florida are probably more aware of the dangers of alligators than what those of us who live away from Florida are. But some people have come down hard on the family. There's even people that were upset that there were some alligators that had to be put to death as they searched for the boy. I don't understand why there's always got to be this let's get under somebody's skin mentality on anything that happens. Same thing when the young boy was in the gorilla environment there at the zoo in Cincinnati. People were calling for child protective services to take the kid away from the parents, and bad things happen to good people, and no matter how closely you try to avoid things that would end up like this, things happen. I remember when I lived in Illinois, a father backed over his young child on a tractor that he didn't even know that the child had followed him out the door, and the mother was watching and saw it happen right in front of her eyes. I mean, the parent, they was all that close. Things happen, and the fact that people always have to have an opinion. Why not let this family grieve the loss of their 2-year-old instead of being judgmental and always having an answer of why something should or shouldn't have happened? Mistakes are made in life. Everyone makes mistakes. Some of them are more tragic than others. And to constantly be, I don't see any love involved in a family that loses their child to this type of incident need love. And if you're a Christian, that is what you're supposed to be about, loving your neighbor as yourself. And so would you dog yourself? Because don't think that Christians don't do plenty of this kind of talk as well. This is going to be one of them days where I fuss at a lot of people, and self-proclaimed Christians are involved in at least two of the stories, and this being one of them, that we'll go through. Don't think Christians don't take part in this lack of love for their fellow man and mankind. We're still mourning and grieving the loss of 49 people plus the terrorist. Over 100 people involved in the mass shooting. 100 victims. And they been a lot of goofy talk. There's been a lot of off-the-cuff things. Played quite a bit of a Donald Trump speech that took place after the event happened. I saw Hillary Clinton speaking. I don't know that it was a speech, or it looked more like it may have been at a sit-down interview type thing. And she had solutions to all of this. She's going to, of course, the solutions weren't to reduce immigration from Middle East hot spots or terrorism hot spots. It wasn't to work with the Muslim community to get their assistance on identifying people who may be capable of doing these things. No, she was going to put together a broad panel of law enforcement, national security people, military. I don't know, she may have included the CIA and then 2 or 3 other ones. Going to put together a good-sized panel, and they were going to look into this stuff, is what these things, she didn't say stuff, look into this topic. And I looked at Amy and I said, they're not looking into it already? We got to wait till Hillary Clinton becomes president before they start looking into this stuff? And I just get so frustrated with the reactions of, and it's not just the people that I disagree with or that disagree with me, but Obama's little temper tantrum he threw on a story at Fox News. If it is true that the best defense is a good offense, President Obama should be celebrating in the end zone now. Obviously furious over criticism that his anti-terror policies are weak and that the Orlando slaughter proves it, he went on a televised tirade to let America know he's mad as hell and not going to take it anymore. He laid waste to a field of straw men, cable TV pundits, and the always evil partisan rhetoric, by which he means anyone who disagrees with him. It was a striking display of personal anger and pent-up grievances and total failure of leadership during a national crisis. It also inadvertently captured why Donald Trump was able to brawl his way into the GOP nomination. All of his nice Republican rivals couldn't stir voters because they never knew how to rattle Obama the way Trump is doing it. The president didn't mention Trump yesterday, but the whole speech was nothing but a desperate and incoherent reaction to Trumpism. He didn't name him by name, but he certainly called the presumptive Republican nominee. You knew he was talking about Trump. The article finishes, as such, it was a huge moment in the general election campaign, even though it comes before the nominees are formally crowned. For one thing, it showed that Obama's plan to campaign against Trump, as if he's running for his own third term, won't be a cakewalk for the president or his legacy. I watched parts of that, and we may even talked about it Tuesday. It was an embarrassment. It sincerely was an embarrassment. And we have a so-called commander-in-chief, and we have a presumptive Democratic nominee who, one has had 8 years, the other had 4 years to bungle this entire situation. The ability of either one of them to fight Islamic terrorism at home or abroad is terrifyingly weak and literally almost non-existent. The put the panel together and look into this situation comment just showed the type of leadership that we are looking at should we have a Hillary Clinton presidency. Thus, the Ed Boston Podcast Network at this point in time and for the foreseeable future is going to be the Hillary cannot win the White House what word am I looking for? Endorsement. That's my endorsement for now. The Hillary cannot win the White House endorsement. Her socialistic, anti-American, lack of foreign policy, criminal activity. If they ever looked into the Clinton Foundation and where the funds came from and if they really did a huge investigation, we would see more corruption than a mob crime family. And that's just the way it is. I mean, the stuff that leaks out tells us that. So what if they really did an investigation and dug deep into those things? We would find much, much more. So we here at the Ed Boston Podcast Network are on a Hillary cannot win the White House tour, so to speak, and we'll do everything that we can to point out what happens with her and things that are important for you to know about her. Going right along with that, I have a audio clip from a guy that I like very much. Respect him. Respect his social media things that he puts out. Mark Dice. And this is on the fact that Google is censoring anti-Hillary search results. Take a listen to what Mark Dice has to say.
Since we're on the subject of censorship, since yesterday YouTube unverified my channel, and more people are learning about Facebook censoring the top trending stories, preventing and removing popular conservative stories from the trending list, let's take a look at this 10 examples of how Google is censoring the search results for Hillary Clinton and removing negative search results and negative autocomplete results. This from the Washington Free Beacon. Crime and indictment are not the only terms Google is keeping hidden from searches of Hillary Clinton, a Washington Free Beacon analysis finds. Common search terms associated with Clinton appear to be scrubbed from Google as the tech giant has been accused of manipulating its autocomplete results to favor the Democratic presidential candidate. For those who aren't aware what the autocomplete is, when you're just typing in words before you've even finished it, it will make suggestions. As one of their examples here, Hillary Clinton and then the word GA, it suggests Game Boy, Gaddafi, Game of Thrones, Gandhi, etc. But Google here, even before you type a word, sometimes will suggest the common words that are associated with those other words. And so when you type in Hillary Clinton, the suggested results are Twitter, email, age, and speech. If you use Bing, it is Twitter and indictment. Okay. If you type in Hillary Clinton and then the word VIN, the letters VIN, it comes up Hillary Clinton Vine on Bing, Hillary Clinton Vince Foster, Hillary Clinton Vindictive. But if you search for Hillary Clinton VIN on Google, it's Vince Foster's name isn't associated with that. Of course, the results just go on and on and on. Hillary Clinton CRO on Bing pulls up Hillary Clinton Crook or Hillary Clinton Crooked, but on Google it pulls up Hillary Clinton Crowd, Hillary Clinton Cross Stitch. Couple more here. Hillary Clinton and then the letters UN have an autocomplete on Bing suggesting Hillary Clinton unlikable, untrustworthy, under investigation. But on Google, it says universal health care, university, undercover. Oh, that's so nice of them. One more here. On Bing, Hillary Clinton WHI autocompletes as Whitewater, but on Google autocompletes as Whip Nay Nay. Is that some song for the mentally enslaved masses? So it's not just social media that prevents and censors and manipulates the trending feature. It's not only just also Wikipedia, whose editors have super admin status and prevent negative information from their lovable liberals from showing up on Wikipedia, but Google also censors the search results. Check my playlist here on YouTube under social media manipulation. Now I guess I'll have to make one for Google search or search engine manipulation, as well as many tech insiders have been warning that Google, of course, has been doing this and is in the bag for Hillary Clinton. Thanks for watching. I'm Mark Dice. Subscribe to my YouTube channel here if you're new. Check out my book, Big Brother, The Orwellian Nightmare Come True, which warns about all of this kind of Orwellian censorship and more. Get it in paperback on Amazon.com or check out any of my other books over there on Amazon or download them, I guess, if you want on your Orwellian tablet. But, of course, they could just be remotely deleted or edited as we're now living in this full-blown Orwellian nightmare. Thanks for your support. Become a Patreon and contribute to this channel. Help me grow. And we'll see you soon. More Man on the Street Monday videos and other videos, hopefully here almost every day.
All right, so there is Mark Dice and his findings on Google and their backing of Hillary Clinton. Of course, it's not official, but he certainly gave example after example after example of how that can take place. want to make sure we continue on our discussion about what happened Sunday morning in Orlando and how it continues to affect us today. CIA director's chilling warning ISIS to intensify global attacks, not losing influence. CIA Director John Brennan, in a chilling warning on the Islamic State's growing influence, told lawmakers Thursday that U.S.-led efforts to strike at the terror group have not hampered its terrorism capability and global reach, a message that stands in stark contrast to President Obama's more upbeat assessment earlier this week. Brennan, testifying in a rare open hearing before the Senate Intelligence Committee, said ISIS likely will intensify terror attacks around the world even as its core fighters come under pressure in Iraq and Syria, including by deploying operatives for further attacks on the West. The group is probably exploring a variety of means for infiltrating operatives into the West, including in refugee flows, smuggling routes, and legitimate methods of travel, Brennan said. The testimony offered unnerving context to Obama's comments on Tuesday. The president said the anti-ISIS campaign is firing on all cylinders and the group is under more pressure than ever before, while conceding they're gaining traction elsewhere. Brennan echoed the president in detailing the group's territorial losses in Iraq and Syria. He said they're struggling to replenish fighters and getting squeezed financially. However, he said ISIS is resilient and likely will adapt, and warned the coalition gains in Iraq and Syria are not blunting its capability to carry out deadly operations abroad. Unfortunately, despite all our progress against, he says, ISIL, it's really ISIS, on the battlefield and in the financial realm, our efforts have not reduced the group's terrorism capability and global reach, Brennan testified. The group's foreign branches and global networks can help preserve its capability for terrorism regardless of events in Iraq and Syria. In fact, as the pressure mounts on ISIS, we judge that it will intensify its global terror campaign to maintain its dominance of the global terrorism agenda. Further, he said the terror massacre in Orlando last weekend, the worst in U.S. homeland attacks since 9/11, shows ISIS is still working to inspire attacks by sympathizers who have no direct links to the group. The left's answer to all of this, I hesitate and slowly say this because it is so obvious. What they would say is gun control. Gun control. Yeah, that gun jumped up in his hand, and that gun just automatically fired directly at those people. Gun control is the answer to all the world's problems. If you don't believe it, just ask a libtard. I say just the opposite. You better be armed because of these lone wolf attacks. Unfortunately, there are cowards that are willing to die for their cause. And law enforcement cannot stop many of the things that they do or and are going to do. I listened to a sheriff talk that it takes minutes for law enforcement to arrive at a scene of a crime. It takes seconds to pull something out of a holster and defend yourself. I know that there are people who who don't want to do that, and in that case, they shouldn't do that. They need to not feel that they have to, but for those that are willing, those that are able, we need to buckle down and we have to watch. I was listening to some talk radio while I was traveling to my VA appointment earlier today. We got to watch the left because they get sneaky with stuff in the way they try to work. They try to blame the NRA and things, and the NRA has not changed its stance on people who should not be allowed to purchase firearms. And they're trying to say that somebody that's on the terror list, somebody that's on the no-fly list shouldn't be able to buy weapons. Well, that's all well and good. You wouldn't want somebody that you thought was capable of terrorism out purchasing guns. However, those lists, there is nothing that stops them from putting you or I on one of those lists. And Trey Gowdy has done a good job of defending the due process portion of that topic alone. You know, it makes common sense that people who have legitimate ties to terror not be able to purchase weapons. I don't think anybody is against that. But these lists are not perfect. They have issues within the lists, and good people could be on the list. Well, as a matter of fact, the guy on the massacre was on a terror watch list 2 different times and had been removed from the terror watch list. So, you know, it's not just as simple as saying, here's what you do. We certainly have to put common sense measures into place. We certainly have to uncuff the hands of our law enforcement people to be able to help with these situations and have intel and know more than what they know. But the knee-jerk reaction is to ban this, to ban that. Guess what? You can ban whatever you want. There's enough on the streets already. Because every time one of these happens, guess what happens? Americans go out and they buy more and buy more because they know that the left is going to start saying, ban this, ban that, ban this type of weapon, ban that type of weapon, ban this color of weapon. Because the left aren't honest with you about what happens. They're not honest with you when they describe what a weapon does and can do. As in everything that I talk about on this show, I encourage you to find out yourself about AR-15s. What are they capable of? What kind of rounds do they fire? Don't listen to a libtard tell you what it is that they do. I'm not going to tell you what they do. You can, because the left can say the same thing. Don't listen to him. He's biased. He's a right-wing wacko. Okay. Educate yourself. Go find out. Find out about the terror watch list. Find out about the no-fly list. Find out about people who've been unjustly put on them. Find out about people who have to defend their good name to get off of these lists. And enlighten yourself. So much of the time, we just take the words of people in the media, on talk shows, right here, listening to me. That's not good for you. It really is not. You need to educate yourselves. And I'm just telling you, both sides, you need to call BS on a regular basis. I don't know how to say it any more plain than that. And as I mentioned earlier, mostly talking about parents, this story that was on the front page of edboston.com and our 3 Christian news feeds, political scapegoat, ? Some blame Christians for Orlando massacre. The headline itself just infuriates me. Let's read what they say at CBN. Christian political and spiritual leaders are pushing back against a wave of criticism blaming Christians for the murders of 49 people at a gay nightclub. These acts of violence breaks the hearts of all people of conscience, regardless of religious faith or political ideology. These acts of violence break the hearts of all people of conscience, regardless of religious faith or political ideology. Yet sadly, some voices in our culture choose to use this tragedy to further divide, taking responsibility away from the gunman and laying at the feet of just about anyone else, Representative Diane Black, Republican of Tennessee, wrote in an op-ed on townhall.com. Instead of grieving together in unity, as we did after September the 11th, we have devolved to this, she continued, listing recent incidents. A CNN contributor used the tragedy to denounce right-wing Christians. An ACLU lawyer blamed the attack on legislation related to marriage and religious liberty. A cable television host shamed those who call for prayer in the wake of such tragedies, dismissing it as talking to nobody. And congressional Democrats walked out during a moment of silence to honor the Orlando victims. These actions do not bring back a single life that was lost, and they do nothing to help heal a wounded nation, Black wrote. When we equate loving disagreements between Christians and our LGBT neighbors with acts of terror that kill and destroy, when we rebuke sincere prayers because they are not accompanied by a particular political agenda, and when we diminish a spiritual act that so many, myself included, believe has transforming power to lift up a hurting world, we delay the healing process, she continued. When we tell Americans that their deeply held beliefs on sexual orientation, the Second Amendment, or any other topic preclude them from sharing in our mourning and grieving the loss of these 49 precious souls the same way anyone else would, we impose a chilling effect on the freedom we believe that has guided and defied our country since its inception, Black wrote. Beyond that, this talk ignores the facts of the tragedy and diminishes the role of personal responsibility in such acts of violence, she continued. We know that the carnage in Orlando was not the result of a pastor's sermon, a congressman's bill, or even a manufacturer's gun. It was the result of a choice made by a person who pulled the trigger. The killer was a terrorist influenced not by right-wing Christians, but rather by radical Islamic ideology that doesn't just condone the persecution of gay people, women, and others. It compels it with the promise of eternal reward, Black said. Franklin Graham, the son of evangelist Billy Graham, referred to the dangers of Islam's teachings in a Facebook post Wednesday. Mr. President, I read in the New York Times today where you reportedly blasted Donald J. Trump for wanting to tighten the borders and accused him of painting a whole religion as violent, Graham wrote. A Muslim can murder 49 innocent people in a gay club, and you still defend the religion of Islam. But a Christian who refuses to bake a homosexual's wedding cake endures prosecution, financial ruin, and a nationwide shaming because of their faith, and you stay silent, he continued. They use the name of the terrorist, we don't. What the terrorist did was following the teachings of the Quran. It is incomprehensible that you will not acknowledge the dangers of Islam's teachings in order to protect the American people under your watch, Graham wrote. And the blame with the left is never going to be anywhere other than against the right. Now, I can just hear the left saying, well, conservatives do the same thing to liberals. Well, let me give you an example of how we Christians react when Christians step out of line. Again, another CBN News article titled, Christian Leaders Condemn Pastor's Statements Praising Orlando Attack. I'll preface this. A pastor in California had a sermon videotaped where he praised the fact that the 49 people were killed. And I'll use that as a preface of going into the article. A California pastor in a videotaped sermon praised the attack on an Orlando gay nightclub which killed 49 people, CBS 13 in Sacramento reports. The video, which was on the Verity Baptist Church's YouTube page, has since been taken down as, quote, a violation of the site's policy against hate speech, according to CBS 13. In the sermon, it says, "Are you sad that 50 pedophiles were killed today?" Pastor Roger Jimenez said in the sermon. No, I think that's great. I think that helps society. I think Orlando, Florida is a little safer tonight. Jimenez spoke to the network a day after his remarks and stands by his sermon. CBS 13 reports the pastor believes he's being misinterpreted and says his goal is to not incite hate. As far as the Bible is concerned, they crossed a line, Jimenez said. The sin they performed is worthy of death. He also did not back down from his statement that Orlando was safer because of the deaths of the shooting victims. Absolutely, I think they are safer now because of these deaths. And the reason I think that is because I believe all these homosexuals are pedophiles, and the Bible, see, our culture and our society puts them in these categories, gay, lesbian, whatever, but it's not found in Scripture, Jimenez says. And I understand the world does not want to accept that. That's fine. I'm saying as a Christian, the Bible puts people in two categories, normal and natural, and unnatural. He continued. Local law enforcement says because Jimenez did not actually threaten anyone, his remarks are not considered a hate crime and fall under the protection of the First Amendment, according to CBS 13. Now here's where I want you to pay attention. Here is the difference. Christian leaders are condemning the statements made by Jimenez. Reverend Samuel Rodriguez of New Season Christian Worship Center in Sacramento and Dr. John Jackson, the president of William Jessup University, issued a joint statement. We stand resolved in our condemnation of the heinous attack that occurred in Orlando. We also condemn the detestable statements made by a pastor in Sacramento. The pastor's statements do not reflect genuine Christian faith, and as followers of Christ, we disavow his bigotry. Also, as followers of Jesus Christ, we stand in unity with our nation in offering love, prayer, and a helping hand to the gay community. Everyone in America deserves to live their lives free from fear. It is the heart of Jesus to save, heal, and deliver. Christian leaders lead people to the love, grace, truth, and healing hope of Jesus, not to insensitive judgment. We pray for the gay community to experience the love and grace of Jesus and his people, both in Orlando and across the United States. We pray for safety for their community and for all Americans during this violent and unsettled time. See, that's the difference between the libtards and the Christian right. The libtards won't even use the word radical Islam to identify who it is that perpetrated this horrific massacre. And when a Christian stands up and stands out of line the way this joke of a preacher did, condemnation comes. As it should. You see, it's not whether they're left or right, or Republican or Democrat, or Christian or non-Christian. It has to do with right and wrong. And to proclaim those kind of things in the name of Christianity blasphemes the Bible. Now, some people would say, well, in the Old Testament days, they did put homosexuals to death. They still put homosexuals to death in countries all across the world today. Christianity, New Testament Christianity, those that believe in Jesus Christ and that he came to fulfill the old covenant, and it is the new covenant, don't preach that. Don't preach hatred if they're following the Bible. When you hear them speaking out of line like this person does, they're just taking it upon themselves to make the situations worse than what they are. To think that all 50 of those people were pedophiles is ignorant. To think that all 50 of them, even one of them, deserved to be murdered the way they were murdered is ignorant. And I, Ed Boston from the Ed Boston Podcast Network, totally condemn this pastor, Roger Jimenez. It's unthinkable that somebody would stand up and say something, even if it was a year from now, but especially on the day that it happened. He preached the sermon on Sunday. It happened Sunday morning at 2 o'clock in the morning. Unthinkable. And I just don't have any more to say about it because it sickens me. And it's pathetic. As we continue with looking at all of the things that the Christians do wrong, and we go on the Bash the Right tour, following along to observe U.S. welcoming many more Muslim than Christian refugees. Mind you that I could sit here and go through a list of horrific crimes taking place by Muslims against Americans. This story says the United States is only allowing a small number of Christian refugees into the country and processing thousands of Muslims from Iraq, according to reports. The American Center for Law and Justice claims that the U.S. government's Refugee Processing Center has only processed 433 Christians since the beginning of 2015, while 11,086 Muslims have been processed. In an attempt to justify this astounding discrepancy, the Obama administration and congressional Democratic leadership continue to maintain the U.S. should not consider a refugee's religion in deciding whether to grant refugee status, the ACLJ said on Tuesday. But according to the Christian Post, however, the ACLJ says that religion should be considered when granting refugee status, especially in light of violence in other parts of the world. So, we know that ISIS targets Christians in Iraq and Syria because they are Christians. Christians are being slaughtered, tortured, raped, and displaced because they are Christian. We also know that under U.S. and international refugee law, religion is a criterion for granting refugee status, the ACLJ said in a statement. A November 2015 report from the Worldwide Refugee Admissions Processing System said that Christian refugees in the U.S. only account for 1.6% of arrivals in 2015. Muslims accounted for 97.8% of the total. Now, where's the common sense in this? Christians are being slaughtered because they are Christians. Granted, there are Muslims that are losing their lives as well. But they're not losing their lives because they are Muslims. They are losing their lives because they are in a war zone. Christians are being targeted because they are Christians and are in a war zone. So, it's amazing that when people are filibustering on the floor of the Senate about things, that they don't like to hear these kinds of facts that are brought out. They don't like to hear that regardless of whether they like it or not, we were founded as a Christian nation, and yet we're bringing in more Muslims than we do Christians. And then they make vile and hateful comments about the Christians who this country was founded upon. The Bible says in last days the wrong will be right and the right will be wrong, and goodness gracious. Those percentages, 1.6% Christians in 2015, 97.8% Muslims in 2015. That's staggering, mind-boggling, crazy. We know the CIA director himself said that ISIS is infiltrating the refugees so that they can pose and enter into these other countries that are accepting legitimate refugees. Our own CIA director said that. That's an appointed position by President Barack Obama. That's one of his own that is saying what it is. I don't get it. I won't never get it. In order to return our country to the greatness that we have found throughout our history. We have to turn to Christ. We have to. We just have to. It's not a mistake, and it's not a coincidence that when we lived as a Christian nation that we had the favor of God. It's not an accident. It's not coincidence. Benjamin Netanyahu has been very outspoken this week. Saw an article that he was talking about the Orlando massacre and giving condolences and pointing out the real truths that many of our leaders won't even mention. But he's also moving ahead with plans to build a Trump-style border wall around all of Israel. This article from NowTheEndBegins.com, as Israel confronts threats along its borders, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has made the construction of new barriers a major national security priority. In February, Netanyahu announced he is working to surround the entire country with fences and barriers to defend ourselves against wild beasts that surround the Jewish state. The barrier was revealed on Thursday in a story splashed across the cover of Israel's largest daily newspaper. The story was published with the approval of the country's defense ministry. Israel's defense establishment plan to build a concrete wall tens of meters underground as well as above ground along the Gaza Strip border was revealed by the newspaper Thursday morning. The wall will stretch along the 60 miles of the southern border around the Gaza Strip and will in fact be the third defense system of its kind Israel has built along the border. The first 60-kilometer barrier was constructed in 1994 following the Oslo Accords, while the second system was built following the decision to disengage from Gaza in 2005. Neither of the efforts, however, provided comprehensive solutions to the threat of attack tunnels. The report comes after two Hamas terror tunnels were discovered crossing into Israel in April and May. As Israel confronts threats along its border, Prime Minister Netanyahu has made the construction of new barriers a major national security priority. In February, Netanyahu announced he is working to surround the entire country with fences and barriers to defend ourselves against wild beasts that surround the Jewish state. You see, in order to defend yourself, you have to take action. You can't be reactionary. And when you have to be reactionary, you have to make a statement. When somebody does something to Israel, they respond quickly and they respond powerfully. Somebody does something to the United States and we're going to put a panel together next year after Hillary Clinton becomes president. I'm sorry, but the sarcasm is dripping off of that like my dog who's over there chewing on a bone right now. You might even be able to hear him in the background chomping away. We're going to put together a panel and we're going to look into it. If it wasn't so serious, if the topic wasn't so important, it would be a good joke. but the topic is serious. The topic is important, and she wasn't joking. So as we move along with the Hillary cannot win the White House endorsement / tour, we look at our friends and we see that action reminds me of a Bible verse that I preached on not too long ago. Faith without works is dead. I'll just leave that with that there and not say anything more on that. In my final story for today, I think, I don't know, I'll glance and see if anything new has come up since we've been on the air. Again, this comes from nowtheendbegins.com. U.S. Navy discussing plans to microchip first soldiers, then all American citizens. Nope, not going to happen. Should I even go into that? Just say nope, not going to happen. The U.S. Navy has held meetings to discuss highly controversial microchip technology, which could one day allow the government to track the movements of every single citizen in the country. In Revelation chapter 13, verse 16 and 17, it says, "And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save that he had that mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name." A number of naval officers visited the home of an American presidential candidate and transhumanist called Zoltan Istvan, who believes human beings should be fitted with technology to boost their brain power or enhance physical attributes. Istvan said they discussed the possibility of implanting humans with chips fitted with global positioning technology. We have seen correspondence between Istvan and Vice Admiral James Weisskopf, who has retired from the full-time service to work in the Navy Department called Chief of Naval Operations Strategic Studies Group, which is dedicated to devising revolutionary warfare concepts. Do you think we might be living in the end times, folks? Is it at all possible? We talked about right being wrong, wrong being right. We just talked about marking people. We could very well. I just refreshed my screen, and here's what those bad old Christians do when tragedy strikes. When tragedy strikes against a group of people that they disagree with. A number of Orlando churches have offered their places of worship to families of shooting victims as funeral facilities free of charge. The Huffington Post reports that a number of churches have extended the offer and lists several of the churches there. Some of the churches have not only offered their facilities, but have promised to provide food, ministers, counseling, or anything else the families may need for their services. People want to come to the assistance and aid of the people who are clearly devastated, and there's no barrier to that said Forest Lake pastor Bernie Anderson. There's nothing that will keep us from that. It's a true expression of love. It's just to say, this is my brother, this is my sister, these are people in need. We have to be there. With that, folks, I'll end with what I always say. Go out and do the right thing. Take care. God bless America.